Hello and welcome. Good to hopefully see you all. I hope there's plenty of you arriving with some lunch. I'm Emma Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Project F, and we work with the University of Sydney as one of a number of companies that we work with to remove the systemic barriers for women in technology. And today I am fortunate to be joined by 4 awesome women who are working in technology careers at the University of Sydney, who are going to chat with me about what it's like to work there. So they're going to talk about their roles, what they do, a bit about the projects, what the culture's like, what they like about working there. So we just get a bit of a bird's eye view. Before I introduce them, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waterways on which I'm speaking to you from today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I was going to say it's a beautiful sunny Monday morning, or lunchtime, but it's not particularly sunny. Still beautiful, but not particularly nice out there. A little bit grey, probably a bit rainy later. And I hope it's nice wherever you are, and you're comfortable, and you've got some suitable snacks for the next 45 minutes as we chat with our team of women here. So I'm just going to introduce you. We've got Erica Bister, who is a senior programming analyst for Ruby on Rails. Jenny Findley, who is a WordPress developer and website admin. Irene Fu, who's a customer experience designer, and Catherine Campbell, who is a senior customer experience designer. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them all in, and they can introduce themselves to you and say hi. Welcome, 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 welcome. You can take yourselves off mute now.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Good to see everybody, smiling faces.
Hello.
Hi. Is everybody working from home today, or any of you in the office?
Yes. Working from home every day.
Are you, Irene, are you in the office as well? I mean, are you working from home, or are you in the office?
I'm in the office.
You're in the campus. Okay. What's it like there today? Is it quiet for a Monday? Have you got plenty of people in?
Yeah, I know some of my team member, they work from home today because of the weather, and I live close to campus, so I prefer to come to campus. Yeah.
Oh, I don't blame you. Is anybody here full-time remote?
Yeah. Full-time
Jenny?
remote. Yes.
Okay. Are you close to the campus, or do you live quite far away?
I'm on the mid-north coast, New South Wales.
Right. Okay. So do you ever go into the office, or you work completely 100%?
I was there a couple of weeks ago for half a day, and then I've dropped in to visit to meet some of my team. But I'm employed as a remote worker, full-time permanent position, but a remote worker.
Yeah. So, same here. All my team are. What about you, Catherine? Whereabouts do you work?
So I work from home most of the time. I've been on campus a few times since starting back in October. We do, like I said, team catch-ups, lunches, stuff like that. I actually will be going in this week because our practice manager has been pushing hard to get a CX design team space, which we're really excited about, and we're going in on Wednesday to start pulling that all together.
Oh, brilliant. So are you going to design it with a sort of creative vibe to it?
I think we definitely want, we've got ideas, we've mood boarded what we want, whether we get that all or not, but what essentially we want is like a place where it's open and people can see what we're doing and like showcase the work that the CX team are doing.
Fantastic. You want something a bit conducive to the creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Erica? Where are you? Are you full-time remote or hybrid? How do you work?
It depends. If I feel like going to office, then but I try to meet my team member at least once a month. So right now I'm working from home. I have a 10 months old baby girl, so I prefer to work from home right now. Yeah.
So lots of flexibility.
Yes.
I think this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you all about today is what it's like working at the university, in terms of the pace. So, just trying to draw some parallels with corporate land. What does it feel like to work at a university versus, sort of more corporate environments? And I think some of you have had a mixture of both. So working in public sector versus private sector can feel quite different. I know I've done both in my career, and I can certainly see that there are some parallels, but for the most part, it can feel quite different. Does any one of you want to just talk about how that feels to you, if you've had experience at corporate versus public sector?
Yes, so I'll go because I work as a contractor. I work as like for this small company, the largest media company now to the university. Yes, so I think work-wise, um, it's I feel for my work, I feel it's challenging here because there are multiple projects that I have to work on, and um, and flexibility it's better. Like I have a baby, so I need to take her to park, and then I can work off like after 5 and after 6. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so for all of those things I feel flexibility wise it's good. um, Legacy system, that's something I always struggle with. Yeah, so we have to argue and discuss to move forward with the newer technology and all. That's a challenge because everything has to come from the upper authorities and people. Yeah, so sometimes we get what we want, sometimes we stuck with what we have. Yeah,
I think
so
that's quite common anywhere, though, is it? I mean, I hear, there's always a lot of memes on social about having to work with legacy systems.
yeah.
I think for everybody, it's these companies who start off on whatever system, and then a few years later, then it trying to wind it back or transition just becomes one of those things that's almost constantly running in the background.
Yeah.
And so what sort of projects are you working on, Erica? What would be a good example to give somebody externally a view of the type of project that you would be working on?
So I just came back from my maternity leave, and I started with a project that I have been working with lots of projects, but they come and they go based on the like requirement semesters, all of those things. So one of the projects that I worked for the very long is a Sydney Assist. That's a disability project university uses. That's the one. I would call that my baby project. It's a nightmare process.
The dysfunctional baby project.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the one. And right now I'm working with a project called Campus Flora. It's about all the plants in the campus, all the details you see on a map with the markers, all of those things, and then the details about the plants, species, families, all of those things. I think we have a mobile app for that, but I'm working on a website. Um, Worked with a few other projects. They are now like up and running, like faculty profiles. You can go and check up all the staffs can check their details, faculty's profiles, and all sorts of things related to the staffs. Yeah, so multiple projects.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and just on that, when you work in a project team, is the team fully dispersed? I mean, how do your team pods work?
Um, that's the difficult one because I work alone on the project.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, but we have like few team member like who works with the Ruby on Rails and then the React. But we all have our own project. Work as a tech lead on that, like from scratch to like
Right.
writing, planning, deployment, support, everything we do for our own project. All of us, we are responsible.
Great. Okay.
But if there are blocker, if there are something that needs an extra eagle eyes, then we poke one of our team member. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so, do you work with like people from product as well, the product owners, and okay. And
So
is
we have a weekly. If let's say that I'm working on the campus pro, so that's we do weekly meetup or stand up with the product team, because I
yeah,
am only the dev who is working on the website.
yeah,
So and then my manager, who is a technical manager, just to know what's happening, if there's some extra certification, or if there are extra things required that can block my piece of work, then he comes into the picture. And yeah, everything based on the version control, Jira, all of these things, it's on there. We use that, and yeah, go from there.
and what about technology-wise? What would you say? I mean, just thinking about the technology, is you've got legacy systems, but you've also, what's the tech stack like to work
Um,
with?
so I use Rails, and then the React for the front end, and sometimes JavaScript. So I have a project that's on the latest version of its like cycle, and then to the point where it's almost about to die. Yes.
Okay, so
So yeah,
literally the full spectrum,
yes.
one
So
end to
let's
the
Rails is right now 7, um, and I have a project working on a Rails 4 to Rails 7.
other. Wow, literally from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me just moving over to the CX team we've got here. Do you work on similar projects together, or do you work on quite different projects to each other?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we work on lots of different projects. So the way it's split is there's different types of portfolios. So I'm in the student lifecycle management portfolio, and then within that there's different projects, initiatives, and so on. And the team, like we're obviously building out the CX practice here. What we want to do is start to have a big enough team to have like a junior and senior CX member as part of each portfolio to work and help mentor and grow the CX practice. So yeah, we're in different projects, myself and Irene.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm mainly working on research portfolio, focusing on improve our academics experience in research. But as a team, we do usually have a catch up and also design system review to update the design system together, and also a lot of team catch up about how to build our team like value and how to influence the project teams. Yeah.
Cool. And in your teams, when it comes to customer experience, user experience, are you working on sort of more, because you're CX designers, do you work more on the customer experience, so the actual experience of going through a journey that's not necessarily fully online, or are you working on actual product design? Is it do you know what I mean? Is it the actual, are you working on features of a product, or are you working on the experience through an entire sort of workflow?
Yeah, I can go again. I was going to let Irene jump in. So for me, I'm working on the two projects I'm currently working on is student enrollment journey and the course transfer. So whether a student wants to change, they're in the university and studying, and they decide they don't like the current course they're doing and they want to change to another course. So these are both services that we provide within the university to enable a student to be able to do that. So there's definitely some changes that need to happen and to bring better the experience. It's quite a clunky one, we know, and so we look at the overall student journey, as well as from my perspective, I'm also looking for, at the staff side of the processes in the back end, and and if we can improve that while as well as improving the student journey.
Cool.
Yeah, and we're also working on the protocol, CX protocol itself. Recently, we developed a new process of how we progress our work. For example, we, as a CX designer, will work with product owner to talk about what are the experience outcome and also map the jobs to be done. Then later we will translate that into feature with our BA and work for like low fidelity prototype and high fidelity prototypes.
Cool. That sounds really, they do sound pretty interesting projects. Do you get involved with other members externally of the UX and CX community in Sydney or further?
Yeah. Tonight we're actually going to a industrial event as a team.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's part of our team.
Industrial design.
Yeah,
it's yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
are you going as well, Catherine?
Yeah, so as part of building out the CX team and the culture here, so our manager is very passionate about like making it a place that we're doing really fun, creative stuff and like really proud of the work we're putting out there. And we want to be at the top end of knowing what other people are doing, what's the latest sort of design trends, stuff like that. So there is a big conference that's on in Europe usually every year, which is interactions design. And we're actually going to that as a team to see what other companies are doing, what other people are doing and be inspired. And as well as that, again, it's nice as a team building exercise to be able to do that as it's interest to all of us.
Where is it?
It's on in North Sydney. So it's on over, I can't remember what company there is hosting it, but it's actually on tomorrow night. So yeah, we're I
thought it's Tuesday.
So what and what about you, Jenny? Tell me about the sort of projects that you work on. What sort of things are your sort of average?
So I build websites for academics, and I support all the websites on one server. There's absolutely hundreds and hundreds of websites by the university aside from their main marketing domain. So I only administer the ones on the server I look after, and that's making sure they're working, they haven't got bugs, they haven't got viruses. So that's part of my administration job. So that's about it's like 260 sites, and then I build and websites, new sites for academics and their different services and laboratories and researchers. Yeah, so that's a really wide variety. It makes it for a very interesting job because one day I'll be talking to the faculty of medicine, the next day I'll be talking to the archaeology department. So it's really varied. Every day I'm talking to a few different people over different faculties. So it makes the job more interesting. But basically I just build the sites. I don't deal with their data except from a data information management perspective. Yeah.
So what about the content though? The content side of things is done by content people at the university?
That's the idea. So I help them on their way to build a site, and they provide their data. I do see a lot where people, as Eric was talking about, using legacy systems, they build things in using with WordPress. It certainly has a long future and a lot of contributors, but these contributors can drop off after 5 years, and people put their data into these no longer supported plugins. Then that's potentially lost data, which is fairly significant in this environment. So part of my overarching administration is make sure people are keeping their data in a format that's going to have longevity too. So and being able to make it look as good, but be supported for long enough into the future. If it has, it depends on the lifetime of the project they're working on. If they only want to roll it out for a conference, have a website for a conference, then it doesn't matter too much. But if they want to display their research, which is outside the firewalls of the university, then it's really important that they are sitting on something that's going to last for a long time. So that's basically my job here.
Cool. I've got a question that's just come in from somebody that says, what's the best thing about working in tech at the University of Sydney? That's a nice big catch-all question. So who wants to answer that? Maybe all of you can tell us what you think is the best, or what is the best for you specifically. Erica, do you want to go first?
So with me, the project that I work on, and because I work alone on a project, I have choice what to use, what technology to use, what language, what version, where to deploy. All of these things I can put that to my manager, that this is what I think is good idea for a project. Too long, like it has to, like, I don't want to go to the project again and again to support, right? I just want to build it and then relax, then then work on something else. So similarly, so that's the main idea. So I think I have a choice what to use. That's the biggest one. Then, oh, you have to use this one because university people think that this we all work only on a legacy system. It's not that. We have few legacy system, but we have a choice to build something from scratch, and then be proud of that.
So it's some freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
To choose technology, like whatever. Because I never worked with the React before. It's been 7-8 months now. I don't have because I'm a Rails. I do most of the backend work and all. But I wanted to learn how to do React and all of the stuff. So I told my manager, see, I want to do this. If you think it's fine, then And he was
That's
like,
great.
yeah. So he's like, yes, let's do this. I need to give him a time. This is the time frame. Within this time frame, and then he or she can argue, okay, let's do this, let's not do that, so that we finish the entire project within a time, within the budget. It should look good, feel good, follows the university standards, all of those things.
Great. So that's I think that's important to a lot of people in tech, for sure. What about the others? Catherine, what's the best thing as far as you're concerned?
For me, I would say it's that in the fact that we do work in technology, we have the power to drive the innovation and inspire the wider business. From a CX designer point of view, we don't necessarily look at something from a tech side to say that's not possible. I think we very much try to look at the overall experience or journey and try to make people think, like, don't think about what we can or can't do right now. Let's just look at the best solution or the best experience and how we can improve that. And being able to see that outcome, so you're making a direct impact. So we speak to students on a regular occasion, like getting feedback. For example, I was had a bunch of interviews last week with students on a project that I'm working on, and I actually accidentally was just chatting, and the student was mentioned about the university app, and didn't realize that there actually has been work done by other team members, which I then had told them about. And I got an email following up after, which was like beautiful email that they couldn't believe it. They didn't know that it had been updated, and how happy they were with that. It looked like the 21st century, or bringing it back to.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's like you actually feel good. You hear feedback from people on what you've actually done. And I would add to it for what Caroline's asked, as especially adding on as a woman. Since joining, I felt like I've come from lots of different. I've had previous experience in the finance industry as a consultant and so on, but I really feel respected and listened to here as well. Like there's no sort of just passing off like any comments you make. People actually listen to your ideas and really push you forward to drive to do better and push those changes.
Yeah, I think that's you mentioned the addition that on that question that came in from the chat was, what's it like to work there, or what's the best thing as a woman? And I think it is quite important to make that differentiation, in as much as it's obviously, technology is a very male dominated space to work in. So people working in and around Australia, I think we have probably an average of about, I don't think design is quite as bad, but or the numbers of women working in design isn't as low as in, say, Erica and Jenny's space, which is, you know, in the software development space itself is much lower. It's going to be probably 10 to 15%, something like that. The average is 19 or whatever, but yeah, I think it's quite high at the university by comparison to a lot of other places. It depends on where you sit. I think in back end, it's probably lower, but certainly in leadership, it's pretty decent. So it is important to make that differentiation. Who else wants to say what do you find the best about working at the university as a woman in tech?
I've got a few points there. So same with Erica. Where she's talking about being able to provide enterprise solutions. So working in commercial or small business practice, you find solutions for each person, but they generally can't afford the cost per year that you look on for web solutions. But when I can look at the university, I can look at an enterprise-wide solution that can be amortized over hundreds of sites, so the price gets quite low. So that's one advantage of the university. And second one is the unions, because there's currently the unions going on in the background. IT, we don't have unions. So for me to come into a place where there's unions, like, what does this really, am I part of this? So that's really different. I'm still getting my head around this, you know, is everyone else gets the pay rise? Do I do it too? Because am I part of a union? So that's really nice feeling. But then there's also the other side of it's being, you're very institutionalized in this environment. So you can't make snappy decisions. You've got to get approval processes and things can move quite slowly because of that institutionalization. But then again, on what Catherine said about being listened to, in private practice as a female, I was exploited a lot. Men would know how to get me to work for nothing, you know, just by, you know, promising, oh, we'll pay you next week, or and just that level of manipulation, which you can see, but you can't feel like you can get around. You just feel exploited. And that's one reason I wanted to come to university, because I just had to get away from that, because I couldn't master that. So yeah, I'm planning to stay for a long time.
Excellent. What about you, Irene? What's the best thing as far as you're concerned about working at the uni as a woman in tech?
Yeah, for me, I definitely agree with Catherine and Jenny that I feel I've been listened to and people respect my opinion, because women like me in my 20s and join as such a big institution in the university, it's really easily to feel like imposter. And also based on my background, I used to be international student. I might felt like, okay, is this really the job that I'm suitable for it? So I did have that moment, but I have an amazing team, and they're all coming from different culture, different experience. They work in IT, and nobody shows like any unrespectful behavior. They all respect me and they're willing to listen to my ideas and open with the new ideas that I bring in. And yeah, that's how I feel, especially I'm in 20s and I have so much possibilities to grow up, and I have so many teammates to learn from. That's what I'm really grateful.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the things that we were talking about the other day when we all got together just for a bit of a, check out StreamYard and make sure it all works properly for us, was that the drivers at the university are slightly different to the commercial drivers, obviously, but there's still pressure, but the pace is different. So that and the purpose and meaning. So the impact that you're having as a university itself, the University of Sydney is one of the top global 50 universities. And the research that's coming out of the university is globally impactful. Do you have a sense of that in terms of the impact that your work is having on real people? In like globally on real people, some of the work that you're doing is massively impacting. Does that sense flow through to, the sense of purpose and meaning that you have in the work that you do there?
With what I do, it's I directly interact with the researchers and the academics to help them promote their work as one side and to raise awareness. So where I work in websites, I look at a lot of statistics and get a lot of reporting over websites, and I can see one that you have a domain authority, how trusted is your domain, like sydney.edu.au, and it's 87 out of 100. And I would expect that should be higher. And that comes down to there's a lot of websites out there that aren't reaching their potential as providing services for the university. So in my job, that's probably one of my aims, to see if we can get that. I can't do it alone because that comes a lot out of the university main site, but that's how I'll work to make sure we can start lifting that figure up as one indicator of improving the outreach of Sydney Uni.
That's really good. Yeah, I can see how that could give you certainly a better sense of purpose than some of the more sort of commercial products or websites that you might be working on elsewhere. What about anyone else? Does anybody else feel that there's a bit more purpose to your work, or that it's tangible for what you do? Are you connected to it?
I won't say globally, but for the students, like one of the projects that I worked on is disability. So that provides a service to the student who needs special requirements. So when I started working on that project, I was like, okay, this is the part of the work, and it's fine. It's just a work. It's a project. I'm doing it. But when you see all of those data, all of those details, and how my code, my project is helping them to get all of those facilities, all those requirements they need, just to be able to write exam or to be in campus or to find anything in campus, I think that made me happy, because I thought that I'm contributing to someone who really needs all of those things. So but again, it's a legacy system. It's a pain.
I hear you.
Yeah. So but work wise, that's where I think I felt emotional also. And then when it comes from the business client or the manager saying that, oh, this is what we always wanted, and then we have this right now on one of the feature. When COVID hit, everything went online, like the on campus turned into online, right? The exams were on, everything. So for a few of the students who couldn't make it to campus, they need all of those requirements where they were, right? So if they're working from home, writing exam from home, they need all of those facilities in their home. So so I was part of that project. So that made me really happy and content.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. We've had a quite an interesting question. If you were a queen for a day, what would you change? I think if we can adapt that to if you were queen for a day at the university, what would you change about working at the university, or environment at the university?
More food in the fridge.
More what?
More food. Fridge. Yeah.
I haven't been here long enough to recognise any deficiency in what I've seen so far from my role. So I'm pretty happy being here. So Queen, stay as you are.
What about you, Catherine? Would you change anything about the CX environment?
Maybe not specifically the CX environment as such, but if I try to think about what we could change, perhaps more so. CX is pretty, I'd say, immature at the university, and there's a lot of which I didn't realize at the time before starting. There's a lot of education needed around. People don't realize what it is we do and the value we can bring in terms of just bringing the voice of the customer or student in on the research, from the research we do, making sure that we're solving the right problems and stuff. So I suppose from my point of view, I think like to make it even better, like this is a great start that we are building up the CX practice. We are getting involved in more projects. For example, one of the projects I was working on, the product owner had said, and I think we spoke about this before, Emma, that they hadn't actually worked with a CX designer and never actually spoken to students in the 10 years they've been working on projects, and they just thought this was amazing, like the work that I was bringing in. And it's easy for me just to like think like, okay, people are bigging us up and not to be like trying to be like not like we're not that amazing. It's just simple things we're doing. But I think like the fact that we want to make sure we're solving the right problem. It's not just the business has decided we need to do this for X, Y, Z or to tick a box. I think CX needs to be embedded right at the beginning before we even sort of like look at those problems. So I would say, yeah, for me, if we could bring it in earlier in the strategy piece, like why, and then from there we'd be pushing out what our projects are we're working on and stuff like that.
I have a feeling you might be instrumental in making that changing that narrative, or bringing that narrative to the fore.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see. You don't need to be Queen to do that. You need a loud voice, and that's all you need. It's an interesting question, I think, because and specifically CX, I think, because I've certainly seen a flurry of activity in hiring CX practitioners at the university. There were a number of roles that came up a wee while back, and I guess that it's because of a strategic imperative that they have started that conversation, and it takes time for those things to filter through an organization of the size and complexity of the university. So it's going to be a while, but I suspect in a couple of years it will become part of the fabric of how they do things at the university, and understanding the voice of your customer, which is obviously your the students and researchers and so on. But that's a good one to call out. I have a feeling also that Erica, you might change the legacy systems if you were Queen for a day. Would that be fair?
Yes, that would be the number one priority. And again, I would like to add one more thing. Maybe I'll hire more queens.
That's a very good. That deserves a round of applause. I love that. Hire more queens. Brilliant. I think, speaking of which, actually, there are a few roles I want to just put out there to people. There's a QR code on the page that leads you to a page that tells you more about the university. So anybody watching, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about what it's like to work there and some of the leadership, so the leaders in ICT and a bit about the values and so on. But there's 3 roles that they've asked me just to mention today from the office of the CIO, and that's these 3: application middleware specialist, an API integration designer, and a senior technical analyst. Now, the role details are, if you follow that QR code or go to our website, which is projectf.com.au, and you'll find a page on the University of Sydney there, and the details, if you scroll down the page, you'll see current opportunities or something like that. And if you click, they all say more details. So there's forms there that are specifically for people externally to have a look at. So I think, that probably brings us towards the end of this. I want to, just thank you for being so candid about your experiences working there. I think it is a bit of it's an unusual time working in technology at the moment. What's going on elsewhere in the world, and certainly the changes to visa status for people coming in to either study in Australia or work in Australia, that through the last couple of years has really had an impact on everybody's environment. So careers in Australia have seen significant change and impacts. The technology sector is going through a huge amount of redundancies right now and layoffs in commercial organizations where they've overhired through the period of COVID for more online services, or to provide more online products and services. And now that's starting to really change. So I think people are starting to look for opportunities that maybe give them better work-life balance. So maybe give them better opportunity to be flexible and a different pace to the work that they're experiencing in commercial world. And security is becoming more important to people. And, as we see more people going through burnout. So I think looking at public sector is one thing, but looking at for meaning and purpose is a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother priority that we're seeing more of today than we've probably ever seen. Those two themes of well-being and, meaningful work have become higher up on people's priority lists. And I think getting an insight to an environment like the University of Sydney and what it's like to work there as a woman in a male-dominated field, but those things that are so important to women working in this environment at the moment, it's been great to get that insight from all of you. So thank you for sharing the stuff that is meaningful to you. And the type of work that you're doing, that stuff's super important, and it's very hard to get a handle on when you're, outside looking in. So I hope the people that have been watching this have found it valuable and have something to take away. As I mentioned before, you can go and look at the page that I've shared there. It's got a lot of information on it, and there's an expression of interest form there if you just want to chat to somebody at the university about what careers might look like there. So thank you all for your time today. I hope you haven't missed lunch on my behalf. You could have bought it. I should have said that beforehand, but hopefully it won't be too late for you. Enjoy your UX events or your CX event over the next couple of days in North Sydney. I hope you enjoy, I suppose, catching up with your tribe and learning what's happening elsewhere in the world. Thank you, Erica, for sharing your experiences as a mum returning back to work as well, and how the flexibility has been able to positively impact your career. And also, I think, what you're doing, Jenny, working completely remotely, that's great to hear that experience too for people. It gives us another insight on another very positive aspect of working in the technology sector. So thank you all for coming and joining us today. And thank you for the people who've tuned in. And if you're tuning in later, because this is going to be recorded and obviously is on our YouTube channel, then I hope you enjoyed it and have a great rest of your Mondays.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.